Afternoon everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be doing a bit of a first impressions video on this, which is the Epiphone inspired by Gibson 60's Les Paul Standard. Absolutely fantastic guitar. I got it for £500. It's a bargain. I can't believe how close this is actually to a Gibson, and I have owned Gibsons in the past. But anyway, I'm going to do a proper full review of this later, more in depth. But this is just going to be running through the features of this guitar, first impressions of it. You know, it might help somebody out there who's looking at purchasing one. Okay, so let's start at the top, shall we? The headstock. So the first thing is, I think this has been a thing since 2020, but Epiphone have now gone for the Kalamazoo style headstock, which is, a lot closer to a Gibson headstock. It feels more like a Gibson, it looks more like a Gibson, but all I'm going to say is it just looks a million times better than the old Epiphone headstocks. It reminds me of the old Elite Epiphone models. Just playing this guitar, it doesn't feel like you're making any concessions to Gibson anymore. This feels like, a good quality, great guitar in its own right. I've owned Epiphones in the past, and yeah, you did get that feeling that you were going for the cheap option, but not anymore. Not anymore. They've absolutely nailed it with that headstock design. So anyway, sticking with the headstock, and I'll just leave the guitar down for a bit. Everything about this is just, it's an inspired by Gibson. That's the range, and it's keeping, the truss rod cover, the Les Paul script is exactly the same as you would find on a Gibson, even though it doesn't say Gibson, even though the headstock is slightly different. We've still got, the nice pearloid logo on there. I think the headstock's great. I love it. But anyway, I'm waffling about the headstock. Let's not have a waffly video. Let's try and be focused here. So anyway, tuning machines. Right from the get-go, this guitar comes with proper Grover Rotomatic 18-to-1 tuners. The best you can get. My favourite tuner. So smooth, so solid, reliable. If I was getting a new guitar, that would be the tuner that I would get to do an upgrade every time. This comes standard with them, so that's great. And by the way, one of the reasons why I went for the 60's standard as opposed to the 50's is because, well, two reasons actually. The first one is the 50's come with the tulip, the plastic button tuners, which I don't like. I definitely prefer the Grovers. So the Grovers come on the 60's standard. The Grovers also come on the Epiphone Les Paul custom, not the custom. Yeah, they do come in the custom, and they also come on the classic and the studio. So the only guitar in the Epiphone range that's actually got the plastic buttons is the 50's standard. But anyway, another reason I got the 60's is it's got the slim taper neck, which the 50's hasn't got. And to be honest with you, if you look at the guitars in the inspired by Gibson range, which is a fantastic range of guitars, I almost plumped for the classic because that had the 60's neck, that had the Grover tuners, it had some nice switching as well, some out-of-phase switching. But what swayed me in the end was, even though the classic was a cheaper guitar and it had the nicer sort of honeyburst top, and by the way, this guitar, look at the top. Look at it. Iced tea sunburst, tremendous. But I just thought that even that wasn't as good as the classic, which had the honeyburst. Anyway, I almost plumped for the honeyburst classic, but what I found was the pots aren't as good quality as this, and the taper on the pots is basically, it was on off, whereas this, although it's built the roll builders having CTS pots. The classic just had dodgy pots for some reason. Might have just been that guitar in the store. It might be inferior pots on the classic range, but anyway, I think I went for the right guitar. There's no problem with these pots, but we'll get to that. Let's go back up to the headstock. This is a detailed first impressions video. Anyway, that's the headstock. You know, the difference between this and a Gibson, of course, is the neck angle. So on a Gibson, I think it's a 17-degree neck angle, 17 degrees. On this, it's shallower, it's 14 degrees. So that's another difference between this and the Gibson. And I tell you, this guitar is so close to the Gibson, so close. I've owned Standards, I've owned Gibson Les Paul Studios, and this might as well just be a Gibson. Might as well be. But I will point out the differences as I go along as well. So sticking to the headstock, another difference between this and the Gibson is the headstock is scarf jointed as opposed to the Gibson, which is just a one-piece mahogany neck. This is a three-piece mahogany neck, scarf jointed here, and then if you just go down here, I think there's another join there. I think we'll see. We'll get into the detail later or on another video. So there you go. So moving down, we'll move down to the nut. So this is, again, one of the best that you can get, you know, other than just going out and getting yourself a custom, you know, bone nut or whatever. This is a Graphtec new bone nut. And unlike the Strat that I've got, my Fender Player Strat, check out the videos on the channel. This has been cut absolutely perfectly. So the way you figure that out is you hold down on the 3rd fret and then you see how much of a gap you've got. Clearance on the 1st fret, and this has hardly got any, which is perfect. Maybe there's a little bit more on the bottom here, but this is not going back to a luthier or a Guitar Tech like the Fender Strat did. I've had no end of problems with that Fender Strat. You know, it's pretty much perfect now, but out of the box, oh my God, for £500, this is amazing, an amazing setup, an amazing build quality, much better than, you know, the Fender Player Strat which I've got, which is basically £100 more expensive. Anyway, that's the nut. Couldn't ask for more with the nut. Although what I will say is, maybe they could have just filed those corners a little bit more. It's not a massive issue, and I don't really want to start getting the file out on this, but a little bit sharp, you know, fraction of a point off for that possibly, but really am nitpicking, really am. Anyway, Laurel fingerboard, which I know is a downgrade, you know, to rosewood. This at the minute hasn't had any lemon oil on it, so I'll get so it doesn't look that pale. I think it looks quite dark, you know, out of the box it looks quite nice. But you know, a splash of lemon oil, give it a drink, that's going to look even darker and even better, probably on par with the Strat, which has got a Power Ferro board, but that looks really dark. So yeah, probably a bit of TLC needed on the board, but out of the box, winner. The frets, you know, I think so. These are your standard medium jumbo. And it, you know, again, I can't believe what a great fret job they've done. You know, look at the action I've got this down to, you know, 12th fret. You know, you're talking 1mm action, you know. This hasn't been plecked. You know, this is not a Gibson, it hasn't been plecked. It's just, the frets are just sorted. And I've heard horror stories about Epiphones, you know, where uneven frets, and I've had a horror story with my Fender Strat, you know. That's had fretwork done to it. Oh, I should have just returned it. I didn't. You know, I've got it to where I want now, but again, out of the box, Epiphone are just, they're knocking it out of the park. They are smashing Fender to bits for quality control at the minute. I'm not sure how it goes for Gibson, but the Epiphone inspired by Gibson range, anybody who wants a decent guitar for not a lot of money, you cannot go wrong with these guitars. They're amazing. But I'm starting to waffle. Back to the frets, yeah. Do you know what? They could do with a bit of a polish, if I'm being honest. You know, they're not as nice as my Fender, but then again, I've had the steel wool out on that. Just a bit of, all it needs is a drink with it, with the lemon oil, going over with the steel wool, or, you know, fret rubbers or whatever, just to give the frets a little bit of a polish. That's all it needs. But the actual fretwork is just exemplary, you know, and the proof is in the pudding. Get that action down low and bend the notes up. It doesn't choke out. It rings as clear as a bell. It's brilliant. So anyway, onto the actual neck itself. Yeah, so 3-piece mahogany. You know, nice cherry red finish on the back, which I was a little bit unsure about in the beginning. I prefer the sort of more brownish finish that the classic had. But getting this home, this just looks right. You know, having that cherry red finish on the back with the iced tea burst just looks, it just looks like the best Les Paul you've ever seen, I think. You know, that's my dream guitar right there. Sunburst Les Paul for not a lot of money. I've sidetracked there. The neck itself, the 60s slim taper. So that's what you get on this, as opposed to the 50s, which has got a chunkier neck. Now, this is not a slim neck. You know, this is not as slim as, you know, Fender Medium C. It's chunky. It's just not as chunky as the 50s, which I prefer. This is just a faster neck, but it's still got quite a bit of girth to it. You know, so I don't think I'm losing out anything really on, you know, like tone, sustain or anything. And this guitar sustains forever. This is just a Les Paul with a, you know, a faster neck, I'd say. But this isn't a speed neck. It's still chunky. It is still chunky. You know, the trapezoid inlays, pearloid, lovely. Can't see a problem with them. I can't see a blemish on this guitar. You know, and I've been over it with a fine tooth comb. I can't see anything wrong with it. It's been perfectly put together and built, as far as I'm concerned. You know, amazing. Anyway, right, there's the set neck. Now let's move on to the electrics. I mean, you know, these are really good quality electrics on this guitar. You know, Epiphone have made a big play about this. You know, they've said in the past that's been the sort of Achilles heel of Epiphones. I had an old Epiphone Les Paul Standard from around about 2000, and I replaced everything on the, you know, all the electrics, the pickups, everything. Yeah, and it almost was up to par with a Gibson. Not quite, but almost up to par. This comes with everything sorted out of the box now, and I'd say it was on par with the Gibson out of the box now. That's how good this guitar is. Why anybody would want to pay £2,000 for this guitar? Yeah, you get the one-piece maple, one-piece neck. Yeah, you get the Gibson on the headstock. Yeah, you get nitrocellulose. This hasn't got nitrocellulose, it's got poly. Why would you? Yeah, you get the, you know, the burst buckers and move. Okay, moving on to pickups. Let's move on to the pickups. So the Standard series comes with the Pro Bucker pickups, right? Now, I've owned, the last Epiphone I owned with humbuckers was an ES335 Pro, which had the Anico Classic Pro pickups in it, and they were great pickups. You know, they were amazing pickups, but these are an upgrade on the Anico Classics, I think they're called, or the Customs, I can't remember. But these Pro Buckers, and it's a 2 in the neck and a hotter 3 in the bridge. Our builders being lower output, so like more of your classic PAF style original, you know, Les Paul pickups. And, you know, straight away you can tell that these have got more clarity, they've got lower output, but it's just, you know, it's conveying the real, you know, the real character of the guitar. I think these are great pickups, and I wouldn't, you know, no need to upgrade them. And guess what, if you did want to upgrade them, you know, this guitar comes with the, you know, the nice sort of plug-in connectors. You don't need to do any soldering. So you could just drop a couple of USA or whatever, you know, bare knuckle, whatever, pickups in here. Just drop them in, click, done. That's easier than a Gibson as well. So there you go. And you know, bear in mind, this is a quarter of a price of a Gibson Les Paul Standard. So yeah, Burst Bucket 2, sorry, Pro Bucket 2, Pro Bucket 3. And like I say, an upgrade over the Studio and the Epiphone Les Paul Classic, which have the Alnico Customs or whatever they're called. So anyway, let's get this guitar beautiful. Let's get this beautiful guitar into focus. And look, look at that top. Just for a minute, I'm just going to have a perv over this top. Yeah. Iced Tea Sunburst. Now I know it's a veneer. I know this isn't, you know, the body is not like a Gibson, you know. This has a veneer on the back and a veneer on the top. The Gibson has solid mahogany body, yeah, no veneer on the back, and a solid maple cap, right? This hasn't. I think what this has got is a mahogany veneer, you can see it, mahogany body, probably, you know, a, you know, inferior species to a USA Gibson, who knows? Maple cap, maple veneer, that's what this has got. Now, who cares, right? The proof is in the pudding, the proof is in the sound. Yeah, this has got the poly finish as opposed to the Gibson, which has nitro cellulose. But guess what? This will last a lifetime. Nitro cellulose won't. You can check out another YouTube channel called The Guitaristas. And that guy's owned Gibsons, and they've just started to, the finish has started to fall apart after half an hour. And, you know, that's how bad the nitro finish is. Do you really want that, or do you really want a finish that looks great forever? I know which one that I would pick. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, mahogany body, same as a Gibson, blah, blah, blah. Now, the hardware. This is another, I mean, drop us a comment if you disagree, but this is another thing that Epiphone wins out on, in my opinion. You've got the lock tone, you know, bridge and tailpiece. Now, I know that these are probably, they're not milled steel or whatever, aluminium. They're probably not as lightweight as a Gibson. Yeah. But the lock in, you know, if you take the strings off, the tailpiece and the stop tailpiece and the bridge don't fall off like a Gibson. These stay on. So these are actually, you know, better. These are better designed. You know, how far they are behind a Gibson in terms of quality, who knows, but I've always liked, you know, Epiphone hardware. It's just no fuss. It's just great. Moving on to the electronics. So we've got the nice sort of, you know, the volume and tone markers on this that the Studio doesn't have. So that's a good thing. And, you know, to be honest, I do like the function of speed knobs better, but these are just beautiful, you know. These are lovely, you know, like the reflector knobs with the position markers. Yeah, I'm quite happy with them. I think they look great as well. And just look at the top, you know, just look at the top on that. That's absolutely, that is one of the best looks for a Les Paul I think there is out there. Yeah. What can I say? You know, CTS electronics as well, you know, so that's another upgrade. Some have said this, you know, these aren't the best CTS pots. They're not as good as USA, but they're a massive upgrade of, you know, Epiphones of old. Let's just go around the back, I guess, for a second, just to show you. You know, there's the output jack plastic. I noticed that on the Studio and the classic models, it's metal, but that's a small thing. I don't know if you can make out the join there on the back, but, you know, look at it. Look at the attention to detail. There's not a mark on it. It's beautiful. Anyway, I'm starting to waffle a bit on her, so I must be coming to the end of the video again. Yeah, this is just a first impressions of a wonderful, wonderful guitar for not a lot of money. I am so impressed. I've had no issues with it. I've whacked down the action as far as I dare, and it hasn't moaned about it. It's super low action. There is 10s on this, so the string tension is a little bit higher than my Strat, which has got 9s. But I think that's because the Strat's got the floating bridge, so you know, feels a bit floppier, slinkier. I think I might switch this to 9s, so that's going to be even slinkier than the Strat. But you know, with 10s, zero playability issues. It sounds phenomenal. We'll cover that in the next video. It sounds like a Les Paul. You know, it's not, it's refined. I put that. We know these Burst Buster Pro Bucker pickups have given us something that I haven't experienced before, right? But that is a Les Paul that doesn't just run away with you like, you know, the old, you know, the 498Ts of the old studio I had. The lower output pickups are just something else. They can be wound up. They're more powerful in the Strat, obviously, but it just sounds more authentic. Yeah, it's not all about all-out distortion with this guitar. It's so much more flexible, you know, so much more, you know, reactive to the volumes and the tones. As you can probably tell, I love this guitar, and I'm going to be doing a lot more videos on this guitar. I'm going to be doing an in-depth review on it. I'm going to plug it into my little Marshall DSL1 valve amp. Can't wait for that. Yeah, I'll keep you posted. I'm going to be doing comparison videos between this and the Strat, you know, because I know a lot of people are, you know, are wanting to know what is the difference between, you know, I guess the best two guitars ever made, the Fender Stratocaster and the Gibson Les Paul. And I've been sort of swapping between these two guitars for the last 30 years. I think this is the 6th Les Paul that I've owned, and I've owned about 10 Stratocasters. But for the first time in my life, I own both. I own a Strat and a Les Paul at the same time, and it feels like that's the end. It feels like I've reached the sort of the pinnacle, you know, of, I don't know, guitar ownership, I suppose. You know, I've killed the gas for a bit, is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, yeah, now I am waffling. So, hope you enjoyed the video. I've just gone over 500 subs quite recently, so, you know, thank you so much, everybody that's subscribed, liked, commented. You know, I want to hit that, you know, 1,000 as soon as I can. Appreciate your support. See you on the next one. Bye.